What's up, guys? Welcome into my first Liverpool video recap thing that I'm going to be doing. I personally am more of a video guy, so I've been doing some articles so far. Of course, I did the Community Shield for Liverpool. I'm also doing Atlanta United. Make sure to follow my Twitter. It's at ER_sports_ for more live tweeting content and just updates on what content I'm going to be creating as I'm doing both teams. This time around, I'm deciding to do a video. So, like I said, I'm more of a video guy, so I might do more videos in the future rather than articles. I might do both. If you guys come and tell me that you rather the articles, I'll do those. But I do personally like to do videos better, so that's what I'm going to do. I mean, to get it started right off the bat, I got to let you know, I'm in Alaska. I've been here since probably end of May, which means I've been here for about 3 months, which, as you can see, means I haven't had a haircut in at least 3 months, so it's looking pretty raggedy. But I mean, you don't need a good haircut to talk Liverpool, so that's what I'm going to do today, you know what I mean? And all these videos that I'm going to be doing, it's going to be basically just me talking about the game. I'll probably give what I'm going to do today at least. I have a couple notes that I've taken based off of, what I tweeted during the game and what notes I took while watching the game as well. I'm just going to give you a quick recap, and then I'm going to talk about what happened and what I think it means for Liverpool, whether it be for that game, what I saw in the game, what went wrong, what went right, what it means for the future type thing. So that's really what's going to be these videos. So, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you want more of this content, and it's going to be coming your way. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Let me get right into it. First off, kind of the quick recap. Liverpool played Blackpool in a friendly game. It was their last friendly before the Premier League season starts up soon in about a week. So they played Blackpool at Anfield. It was not the best first half for them. They started off a little slow, which has been kind of a theme ever since they were crowned Premier League champions, to be completely honest. They just haven't really been at that level that they showed us last season. Of course, today there were a lot of players off at international duty against Blackpool. It wasn't today, it was yesterday when I'm filming this. But against Blackpool, a lot of players were off on international duty, so that definitely does kind of affect it. They just didn't play well. The defense was a little shaky, or maybe not that shaky, but Blackpool just kind of finished off. There was a penalty that probably shouldn't have been a penalty. It seemed like it was outside of the box. Either way, Blackpool went up 2-0. And then Liverpool kind of did turn it on after their first goal was a Joel Matip header, who was one of the bright spots in the first half. We'll talk a little bit later on him. He scored a goal, and then a lot of short corners at the beginning, and then a second half came along. Liverpool were a completely different team. There were goals from Mane, Firmino, Harvey Elliott, Takumi Minamino, Divock Origi, and Sepp Vandenberg. It was a 6-goal second half. There were 7 different players that ended up scoring a goal in this game. It was 7 different scorers. It was just a great second half from Liverpool for sure. And it's a little bit worrisome, like I said, that they are a little bit off the pace given this is the last preseason game. It's also a little worrisome that this is kind of the second game this preseason where the second team or the young team, that young lineup, does a little better than the first team, because after halftime there were a couple of young players that came on, and this of course is not the first team, but we saw it against Red Bull Salzburg. Rian Brewster came on as well as some of the youngsters as they were down 2-0, and they ended up coming back to make it 2-2. That could be a positive. It's honestly probably more of something to do with the fact that the other teams are subbing as well, which means they don't have as much players on, which I think was probably more of the factor in the Blackpool game. But let's get into what this really means. It was a 7-2 win for Liverpool, and the first thing that you could see right off the bat before the game even started from the team sheet was kind of a hint at a plan B from Jurgen Klopp with a 4-2-3-1 formation. This was really interesting. It sat Minamino in behind, Firmino at striker, and then Mane and Salah were out wide. I thought it was a really interesting one. I think it could be used against defensive teams moving forward. I don't know if it'll be used very often, just given the fact that there's so many midfielders in this Liverpool team that to fit them into 2 spots and then an attacking mid spot, it might not work that much. But today, or against Blackpool, I keep saying today, against Blackpool, it was a great performance from them, I think. I think Keita was a guy kind of in the midfield driving forward, and we saw a little bit better in the second half. The first half, they still looked kind of interchanging, but it just wasn't that good of a first half right up until the end, and then they looked pretty lively. And we saw Minamino and Keita kind of change the game coming into this one in the game against Arsenal in the Community Shield. I think this could bring out the best of Keita as well as Minamino and Firmino, just because Keita's driving forward, and he has four options at that point when he's doing that. And he's someone that likes to drive forward and go forward with the ball. And with Minamino and Firmino kind of interchanging as they both can play either position, it puts Firmino a little deeper at times, which he's very, very dangerous from. And like I said, I think it can be used against teams with very defensive lines and teams that you're going to have to try and break down. They're going to try to attack you on the counter. So it was interesting. I think it's definitely an option for Jurgen Klopp. It's something he's obviously looking towards. It happened in the Community Shield. Like I said, when they brought on Keita and Minamino in the Community Shield, they ended up going to this 4-2-3-1 formation. So it'll be interesting to see as that season progresses. That is something that will be interesting to see as the season progresses. Joe Matip came back. He looked very solid. That's really all I have to say. He's fighting for a spot with Joe Gomez, and he looked very solid. Of course, got that goal. Starting to be a little more usual for him to get up there and score goals during corner kicks. More center back stuff. The possible fourth choice center back that people have been talking about is Billy Cometio. Not sure if I'm saying that wrong, but that's kind of what I get from the name. He's a French center back. He's been very impressive in preseason, and he was again against Blackpool. He was dominant aerially. He had crisp passes. He looks like he really could be that fourth center back option. He did make a mistake for the goal, but I'm not really sure it was completely his fault. I don't remember if it was Salah or Minamino that made the pass back to him. They cut back and they didn't really have many options, so they tried to give it Cometio. It's kind of a hospital pass, very soft pass, I should say. And Cometio maybe could have gotten there a little earlier, maybe could have made the tackle a little better, but I don't think it was really necessarily all his fault. But other than that, he played very strong in that game. Of course, he's very tall, so like I said, he's been dominant aerially as well. So it'll be interesting to see if he truly is that fourth choice center back or if they decide to bring someone in to fill up that position that is vacant now because of Dejan Lovren's sale to Zenit. I'm not sure how to say that name either, but even more on the defensive line, Liverpool kind of it showed in this game, and it's kind of shown since were crowned Premier League champions. I might talk about that moment a lot because Liverpool have been a different team since then, but they play a game where they kind of leave their center backs isolated on counterattacks because of how attacking their wing backs are and just because of how attacking they are in general. It's just kind of those two center backs, and it's very vacant when a counter happens. They're very isolated. It's just them two, and if a team has a solid counterattack, it seems to kind of catch them off guard, except when Virgil van Dijk is at the top of his game. He seems to be someone that can really dictate play, even on a counterattack, to the point that it's okay to leave him back there isolated. But when it's not Virgil van Dijk, it seems to be a little shaky. We definitely saw in the first goal today, it was a counterattack, and Cometio and Joe Matip didn't quite play it right, and that's all it took, and Blackpool is up 1-0. So that's something to keep an eye on as well when Virgil van Dijk isn't in the team with that isolation of those center backs. The first half, like I said earlier, it's still a little worrisome because they kind of just haven't been the same team since they were crowned Premier League champions. So it's worrisome because this is the last game before the season, but also it is preseason, so it doesn't always say that much. The team could be right back to normal when that game against Leeds does come back around, but it is a little bit worrisome, something just to keep an eye on for the beginning of the season. Now, to move on a little bit to the second half, I think Cometio came off as well as Fabinho. Nathaniel Phillips and Sepp Vandenberg went in for both Cometio and Joel Matip, and then Curtis Jones in for Fabinho. So it is important to point out before I talk about this great second half from the team that played for Liverpool. Blackpool did kind of make a ton of changes throughout this half, which could have affected their play, which might have made it why the floodgates opened to a 7-2 win. But even with that, one player that was extremely impressive was Curtis Jones. He was absolutely phenomenal. He was always looking to go forward. He was brilliant dribbling, brilliant passing. He started a lot of attacks that led to goal. He had that one pass to Firmino that ended in a Minamino goal. He had the brilliant pass that would put it on a platter for Divock Origi to just tap it in. And it's starting to look, honestly, like a legit possibility that Curtis Jones is actually an upgrade on Adam Lallana rather than him just taking that place over. He's been very, very impressive throughout preseason. He was impressive throughout last preseason. He was given minutes. He scored a goal against Aston Villa at the end of last season. He's looking like a top player, and there's obviously a lot of hype around him. We're starting to see exactly why, and he's going to get his chance this season. We're going to have to see if he can take it. Another person that seems like he might get his chance is Harvey Elliott. He looked very lively in the game. He scored a goal, which is definitely good for him because he's kind of been... He also got an assist. He had a brilliant deft touch back across goal for the Sepp Vandenberg goal. that was very, very talented stuff there. He played some passes here and there, but he's been great when called on, but he hasn't quite necessarily had that final product. And that's something that if he can have, then he's going to have an even bigger say on this season than some might even think, because he's a very strong player. Moving on, Firmino, Keita, and Minamino all played the 90 minutes, and they were they had very strong showings. Keita, of course, looked like he thrived in that new formation, like I was saying earlier. I still think he's quite possibly Liverpool's best midfielder, but right now this season is becoming even more important for him, because if he can't stay out of injury problems and injury trouble, people will start to lose patience. They already kind of are, but he is someone that really could be that guy for Liverpool's midfield that everyone says they need. You know, the likes of Thiago that people think are coming in, everyone's so desperate for a Thiago-like midfielder, which I think is a little bit off the mark just because midfielders in Liverpool's team aren't really asked to do that much outside of just being a very compact midfield, because they don't need to because of the likes of wingbacks and the potent strikers that Liverpool do have. But this is the season for Naby Keita. I think he could be Liverpool's best midfielder. I think he could be one of the Premier League's best midfielder, but injuries continue to hurt him, and we won't actually be able to see that unless he can stay off of the injury list. Now, Firmino, once again, showed today he's the guy for Liverpool. Maybe he needs to score goals for everyone outside of Liverpool to realize it, but I mean, even when he isn't scoring, he's what makes everything click. He seems to have a little bit of pretty good chemistry with Minamino. He had a couple times. I know the best play of the game probably. He won the ball back in his own box, basically right on top of it. Runs all the way back up the field. Curtis Jones plays a ball. Brilliant little cutback, finds Minamino, and he scores. I mean, it was a brilliant play from Firmino. Ran the whole length of the pitch and was still able to do a little cutback move. He's a brilliant player, and if he can be at his best, he's one of the best strikers in the world. And yes, I say that right now, and I actually believe that when he's at his best. Last year, he was not quite at his best, so he got a lot of hate for it. But I think it could be a big season for him if he can show people outside of Liverpool just how good he is and score some goals for Liverpool as well. Takumi Minamino, I think, has kind of gone under the radar. We signed him for $7.5 million, so it's not really that big of a deal for fans because that's not that big of a signing, but he could actually be really good. I think it was a very good, very cheap deal, a very valuable deal as well. If he can shine the season and score goals and make assists, he could be very important and very key for Liverpool going forward just because they don't have much depth in the attacking areas, so that could be very helpful. He was composed as you like to get his goal today, and it was, he touched it, he faked, and then put it in the bottom corner. I mean, that's a lot of composure. And similarly to Elliott, he's someone that has played really well but hasn't quite gotten that final product. He even said so himself, but now with the goal in the Community Shield, a goal in this game, he's looking like he could be a key player going forward. Now, all in all, it ended up being a pretty good performance for the whole squad at the end of the day because they did win 7-2. And it's a little worrisome, like I said, with the first team attack kind of struggling in the first 30, 40 minutes, but they did turn it on after that. And there's a lot of positives from players that will be key for Liverpool moving forward this season. So, especially if no signings are made, that's going to be big. Players like Minamino, players like Harvey Elliott, players like, Curtis Jones. We're looking at players that are going to be very important for Liverpool, especially if no signings are made. If the like of Thiago come in, maybe Curtis Jones isn't as important. If a backup, let's say Ismail Yassar comes in from Watford, maybe Harvey Elliott isn't as important. But these players could be very important without signings, especially with a couple injuries here and there. They're going to be what determines if Liverpool will have depth this season or not. Other than that, it was a pretty good, warm-up before the Premier League season gets underway for Liverpool. That's on September 12th against Leeds United at Anfield. So that is what, after this international break kind of comes to the end, that's what's going to happen. It's questionable whether Trent Alexander-Arnold or Jordan Henderson are going to be fit for that game. Henderson is fighting to be fit. I believe he's in training, so it'll be a close call, but I will hopefully be able to watch that one and let you guys know what I think about it. But that's it for the Blackpool game. Good game. Some positives from players that will be more of a depth position, and a very big positive from Firmino, I think, who looked very, very solid in that game. But that's it for this video. I'm going to be doing some more videos like this, just talking about the games and doing them in video format rather than kind of a written recap like I did for the Community Shield for Liverpool. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you think I should keep my hair or cut it. Let me know what you think of the video. If you liked it, comment, like the video, subscribe, do all that jazz, and I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm going, all I know where I came, when the sun sets, I hope that you remember my name, I don't know where you at, I don't know where you stay, when I run this money up, everything is gonna be okay.